There are people who say they want to die. The fact that these people say they want to die, and are still living shows they either don't want to die, or have some fear of death. Otherwise they would have gone to the top of the highest state building to jump, which would guarantee instant death once or even before they hit the ground. And the ones who did mean it are dead and have not returned to tell anybody about the other side. Whether they say it, or do it, they are the ones who don't want to cope or deal with the reality of the world, so they try to find some easy way out and not accept full responsibility and control of their own lives. This could also categorize a person as suicidal, which is someone who is dangerous to oneself or to one's interests, self-destructive or ruinous. Ecclesiastes 12:1-7. The wise ones apply their hearts to knowledge, right knowledge, so that they might understand the purpose of their lives before these last days. Were you not placed here for a purpose? Whose purpose? And to what end? It is explained in the Noble Quran 56:57-61, and I quote, "We have created you all, why do you not have trust? Haven't you all seen the semen you ejaculate? Is it you that created it, or are we the creators?" Al-Khaliquna. We have made death a part of your fate, and nothing can overcome us, in order that we may change your likeness, physical appearance, and to make you grow into a form, spiritual, which you know not. It should be noted that in this quote it uses the Arabic word nanu meaning we, and the Arabic word al-Khaliquna, the creators. Both nanu and al-Khaliquna are plurals, not singulars. So the Noble Quran 56:57-61 confirms the Hebrew use of Elohim in Genesis 1:1, where it states that the Elohim are a group of beings who created, not one God. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Life is the time you spend in your cot body on earth, or on other planets. Once you die a physical death, it is the end to your physical life. However, there are two deaths, one is the physical death and the other is the spiritual death. In the physical death your body will dissipate and go back into the earth. And the other is where your spirit dies and goes back into the universe. This is the spiritual death, which is the higher you that highly spiritual energies come from. So when it says in the Noble Quran 21:35 that, "Every person shall taste death, and we shall try you all by evil and by being good as a trial, and unto us you shall all return." The you is not talking about everybody, they are only talking about a chosen few, and the S is more than one being. The chosen few will be the 144,000, if they make it, that will have been tried and prepared in the end when New Jerusalem comes to reclaim them at the rapture. So how can one become or be among the chosen few, the 144,000? Become incorruptible. Put on an incorruptible spirit, 1 Corinthians 15:50-54, knowing what God wants you to do and do it. Become supreme beings once again. Supreme being means supreme among beings, but you have fallen down to the ranks of men. Psalms 82:6-7 states, "I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But ye shall die like men, and fall like one of the princes." A human being becomes a supreme being when he changes or transcends from mortal to immortal, a son of God, or what we, masters, call a self-perfected man, like the angel Gabriel when he appeared to Mary, the mother of Jesus the Messiah in Luke 1:30, and the angel said unto her, "Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with God." Luke 1:34, then said Mary unto the angel, "How shall this be, seeing I know not a man?" A person learns to become supreme through positive prayer, positive meditation, proper exercise, proper diet, cheerfulness, unselfishness, patience, being giving, and always remembering the Almighty God. When you surrender all your love and your will to Him, and stamp Jesus Christ forever in your heart, you will be enabled once again to regain the use of the third eye. That's why it is said that they will be able to leave the physical body and rise up. They will no longer need the physical and the material world. Once you get your desires and wants under your control, you will be ruler of the body, instead of the body ruling you. At this point the body is no longer in need and you have become a supreme being. By regaining that supreme stature, you then become children of the Most High. Psalms 82:6, "I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. And how will they be taken?" Some of you may have experienced this some nights when you go to sleep. The physical body appears to be in slumber, but your spiritual body sometimes ascends. Sleep is the time when a person is most likely to receive spiritual impressions. There is an existing you, the highly spiritual energies coming from you. The physical body has two life cords, the umbilical cord and the ethereal cord. It is with this etheric cord that you are linked with the Etherians that will come for you when it's time. The thin, cobweb-like ethereal cord is invisible to the naked eye, yet it is the link between the physical body and the spiritual plane. Just as at birth the umbilical cord is cut and you are released from your mother, at death the ethereal cord is cut when you die, and you are freed from the physical plane, only if you master desire. If the ethereal cord has been broken by accident on the spiritual plane, the physical body, which lies in a state of sleep, dies and the spirit can never return to the physical body. Such accidents are rare, yet, there is a history of such incidents amongst spiritual travelers of the mental and spiritual plane. A person may not pass directly from the physical plane into the spiritual plane, but through death. The Holy Tablet 7:136-141, when the breath of life ceases to exist in human beings, the ethereal cord in the spiritual body is cut. This allows the person to live an extended and independent ethereal life, much like when a baby is born, the umbilical cord is cut from the mother, which he or she once depended upon. The baby comes out and begins a new life. Being tuned into the world of the spiritual means being in tune with the light. It is a light sent from God to man, a gift. It is a light channeled by Al-Haadi from God to man. It is a light mentioned oftentimes and not understood, a light connecting the physical body to the spiritual body. It shineth into the darkness of the universe, into the darkness of the earth, into the darkness of the body of man, and the darkness comprehends it not. Yet, as stated in the New Testament of the Holy Bible, John 1:3-5, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. One can leave the material plane spiritually and physically if one learns how to use his inner senses. His inner senses are controlled by inner vital centers called seats or chakras. In man there are 7 seats, chakras, and these 7 seats of man are related to the 7 physical senses, which are in tune with the 7 heavens. 1. Root or basic chakra, located at the base of the spine. 2. Spleen or splenic chakra, located over the spleen. 3. Navel or umbilical chakra, located at the navel over the solar plexus. 4. Heart or cardiac chakra, located over the heart. 5. Throat or laryngeal chakra, located at the front of the throat. 6. Brow or frontal chakra, located in the space between the eyebrows. And 7. Crown or coronal chakra, located on the top of the head. The chakra or seat is a faculty that God has bestowed upon man's senses to help him stay in tune with the spiritual world. There is the ear, not the physical ear for hearing, but the ear for inner hearing. There is an eye, not the physical eye for seeing, but the eye for inner seeing, the third eye. This name was attributed to the inner seeing by the elders in association to using insight or the spiritual light, which was exercised by man in the beginning. Ancient spiritual healers, learnt men, teachers and loyal devotees of mystic schools also had knowledge of the third eye and the light. It has been identified under such names as a virtue, vital energy, invisible antenna, and a stream of vital power, cosmic energy. The ancient Egyptians identified with the third eye and was made visible throughout their culture, and further referred to as the sleeping serpent. The third eye is your insight or inner sense that all men were born with, but most have never exercised. This is the sleeping power that one must strengthen. When the third eye is used, the whole entire body is consumed with light, meaning the etheric body and the physical body alike are attuned with each other. Matthew 6:22, Luke 11:34, John 1:5, and Psalms 119:18. All throughout the scriptures references are made to the third eye, not the physical eye. This is the power that resides within every man, that lies dormant waiting for the proper channels to be activated, so that this power can become active. This is a power that must be exercised through meditation, proper diet, discipline and certain daily rituals, which will attune you with your natural supreme state in which man was created. Then there is the inner heart, not the physical heart, which pumps the blood that circulates around the body, but the inner heart, which is the seat of inner sensing. The most common mistake is imagining planes as layers of strata, or fine matter lying one above the other in space. Planes are distinct and intricate moods of vibration, woven into one another so uniquely that one cannot determine where one plane begins and the other ends. Nothing in creation rests. Everything you hear, taste or feel vibrates. The natural mood of vibration ranges from very high and fast, to very low and slow. There are 7 planes or heavens. The lowest and the slowest is the material or physical plane, while the fastest and highest is the plane where one is in total union and bliss with God. The heavens are regions of the mental plane and higher. The 7 planes are: 1. The material or physical plane. 2. The plane of force. 3. The spiritual plane. 4. The mental plane. 5. The plane of divine truth. 6. The plane of divine reality. And 7. The bosom of God. The 7 planes or heavens are divided up into 3 worlds, as explained earlier, also known as realms or abodes. These realms are: Lahut, the realm of God; Malakut, the realm of the angelic beings; and Nasut, the realm of mortals, man. Adam had knowledge of all 3 realms called Ha'ula-I. The 7 planes or heavens also have 7 subplanes, which you are able to see by the 7 subplanes of the material plane. The material or physical plane is the governor of carnal desire. It is the physical or material plane human beings dwell on. It is partly made up of solids, liquids and gases. If you feel that everything that exists only on this physical plane, meaning that nothing extra exists outside of this plane, you are wrong. There is still much to be discovered on this plane. Western scientists limit the physical plane to just these 3 substances, when there are many more forms or states of being within the physical plane. The plane of force is the force between voluntary and involuntary actions. The plane of force and the material plane work together in perfect harmony. If this were not true, the cycles of nature would not be completed so perfectly and faithfully each year. This plane is largely composed of etheric duplicates of objects on the physical plane, or counterparts. Etheric refers to the spiritual part of you, as above, so below. On the spiritual plane, there is no distance, temperature, seasons, day, night, and it is not very subject to gravitation. The plane of force is governed by a force called attraction and is all around us, and it's as much a part of our makeup as the material plane. You are not able to detect it because your senses are not conditioned. However, beyond the subplanes of etheric duplicates of the plane of force is a vast reservoir of forces which very few have knowledge of. These forces control the forces that result in what we know to be nature. The higher forces can also be held accountable for the many so-called wonders and supernatural phenomenon of the material plane. The lowest forces consist of ordinary forms of energy like heat, light, attraction, electricity, etc., but the higher forces are those forms of energy which are finer. They give man and nature vitality and the ability to grow and reproduce. This vital force which sets life on the physical into motion and is responsible for growth and reproduction is called nafas in Ashuric, Syriac, Galilean, Arabic, which means spirit, the spark of life. The Hindus call it prana, and in Hebrew it's called nafsh, which means breath. Every action and reaction of growth and reproduction is a result from the life force. This takes us to the spiritual plane, where emotions are manifested. The spiritual plane is also called the astral plane. It is the plane where you decide whether you move to a higher plane or burn out your desire for the physical, material, lower plane, where you exhaust all individuality, such as pride, conceit, greed, envy, hunger, fear, hate, jealousy, just to name a few. This is also the plane of judgment, by which human beings are judged by sins rather than for them. This plane decides your permanent destination. The human beings who have strong love for the physical world will greatly desire rebirth into the physical, lower plane. One cannot pass directly from the physical plane to the spiritual plane. Your deeds determine whether or not you proceed or recycle into incarnation, possessing human form. The spiritual body, which is the shell of the soul, houses itself on the spiritual plane. The spiritual body may continue to live for an extended amount of years depending on the spiritual status of the person. This is the plane where you can become God by taking responsibilities, and not be wonder, how do you know after you die you're going to go to a higher life? Can you prove it? Can you back it up by facts? Yet the spirit fights the urge to go back to a lower plane and encourages the soul to rise in the spiritual plane. As soon as one gives up the desire for the material things of this world, that person becomes free to travel through the planes at will. If one masters those desires of the physical plane, and is pure in heart, then one can visit and ascend to the spiritual plane. However, one cannot pass directly from the physical plane to the spiritual plane. The spiritual body differs from the physical body in that it lives longer, but even the spiritual body is not immortal. It finally disintegrates and also resolves into its original elements. When one ascends, like mentioned earlier, the physical body appears to be in slumber, in a dreamlike state or in a trance. This is the time when the spiritual body can act freely upon the physical body, drawing the spirit and the soul upward. During these hours of sleep, it is quite easy to ascend accidentally. There are 2 ways to ascend from the physical, and they are the following. 1. With the body raising the vibrations of your physical body up to the level of your spirit and soul, and then continuing to raise the vibrations until you can pass through your ethereal cord freely, taking the physical body with you. Or 2. Leaving the body and only allowing the spirit and soul to ascend. There have been well-disciplined men that have achieved perfection and were able to ascend to the spiritual plane without dying. They were selected into the mystery schools, learned the laws of life, followed the teachings and passed the ultimate test where they became upright men. All the prophets like Enoch, Noah, Jesus, Al-Mahdi, just to name a few, were taught the mysteries, and traveled the journey of life. When the Prophet Mustafa Muhammad al-Amin, son of Abdullah and Amina, experienced his ascension, which is known throughout the Muslim world as Al-Miraj journey by night, he took his entire body, soul and spirit from Mecca to visit the sacred land of Jerusalem, and passed through a time tunnel to see the sacred Masjid of Aqsa before it was built. On his journey by night, Muhammad was lifted to the 7 planes, heavens, where he was initiated into the spiritual mysteries of the human soul, secrets of life and death, heaven and earth, the noble Quran 17:1. The spiritual body, spiritual visions, can be seen, but only by those who have again disciplined themselves and have mastered the physical plane. The spiritual body is seen in the form of a vapory matter that looks like haze or fog, which often is alluded to as a ghost. Ghost is pale, therefore, the last stage of color. Ghosts are conscious gases, which have less various gases in it than 6 ether, which is less than 9 ether, and 9 ether is a combination of all existing gases of nature. Since 9 ether becomes 6 ether through time and age and 6 ether is 9 ether in death, 6 ether also becomes ghost through time and age, and is ghost in death. Thus, ghost is death of death. When 6 ether reaches its climax in evolution, it produces ghost, spirit, and ghost is God. The devil deceives man into believing that there is a physical heaven and hell awaiting him after death, when your heaven and hell rests inside of you as your war between the higher and lower self, the physical versus the spiritual forces. This life is just a preparation for the hereafter, where you will be judged by your deeds and intentions. So, know that this life represents your last chance of redemption, Hebrews 9:15, and for this cause he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the First Testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. What you do in this realm, world, determines your future in the hereafter. If you indulge yourself by giving in to all your carnal desires, you will surely suffer the pains of hell. But if you proclaim, pray, fast, share in the name of God, you will transcend this wretched world, by revitalizing your spiritual senses and paradise will enfold you. If you are not nourishing your soul, which is the vehicle to the heavens, your hereafter will be shared with those who are despised in the sight of God. Revelation 18:14, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The term spiritual senses refers to a secondary set of senses corresponding to the senses of the physical world. In other words, the earthly senses of hearing, seeing, feeling, smelling, and tasting have spiritual counterparts by which the spiritual body receives impressions. The spiritual senses function on the spiritual plane with the spiritual body, just as our physical senses do on the material, physical, plane within the physical body. The human body in reality has 9 senses and not 5, psychometry, intuition, telepathy, clairvoyance, touch, taste, hear, smell, and feel. When you condense the 5 human senses you really come up with one sense, and that is the sense, feel touch. When you taste, it's a sense of touch, for matter touches taste buds. When you smell, it's a sense of touch, for particles touch and nerves react to smell. When you hear, it's a sense of touch, because sound waves touch the eardrum then causes it to vibrate. When you see, it's a sense of touch, because light has to touch the cornea to enter the iris, which enables you to see. Humans once had 4 higher senses, which are, telepathy, mental communication, the transference of thoughts from one being to another without the use of words or wires, intuition, the quick perception of truth by the mind without the intervention of any process of thought, psychometry, object reading, the ability to identify or tell something about an object by picking up thought waves implanted by someone previously associated with the article, and clairvoyance, clear sight, to see into the other dimensions, second sight, an awareness of distinct objects and events. These 4 higher senses also come down to one sense. They are all a sense of perception. Now, to touch, which was the sum of the other 5 physical senses, is to perceive. Therefore, you only have one sense, and that is the sense of perception. Then there is extrasensory perception, commonly known as ESP, which are other senses that are not adequately matured in the average human being. The 4 higher senses are not sufficiently developed because of the removal of the barottary gland. Some children are stillborn with the barottary gland, others have part of its socket and others have none. However, for all those people who are worthy of returning home when the angelic beings come for their children, the barottary gland will be reinserted in the lower part of your chin called the submental area. This takes us to the 4th plane, the mental plane, where thoughts are formed and all individuality is given up because soul and spirit are outgrown. Elevation cannot be made to the mental plane unless one dies, or is given up the physical life. At this point, when one loses the spirit and soul, he is no longer able to determine or complete any actions for or against himself. This is because there is no self. One has taken the ultimate step, and from this point on he has burned out all desires. The fourth plane is also where the angelic beings are living, called Malakut, the realm of angelic beings. Malakut is a pathway where spiritual beings come into. It's the gateway through the vortex. Angels vibrate on this realm and start going up higher. When the spiritual beings reach the fourth realm or density, then they'll decide to come to the physical plane. Human beings are caught on 1, 2, 3, and your world is a 3-dimensional world. You are 3-dimensional beings. We are 9-dimensional beings. The angelic beings, Elohim, the prophets, and Al-Haadi the Green One are the only ones able to travel back and forth freely through the planes. The one thing that holds mortals, human beings, back from ascending to this plane is their ego. Once you reach the mental plane, there's no longer a question about one's destination. One already knows they are on the right path, and from henceforth, one is in a total state of mind, which is shared or united with every living thing. All forms of low individuality are entirely dissolved, non-existent. One realizes that bliss or that ultimate love because they are no longer separate individual ideas to separate. Differences on this plane no longer exist. You can't even determine same, because same is what makes a difference. On this plane one is guided and prepared by the angelic beings, the etheric beings, for the final stage of the journey, the bosom of God. This preparation takes one through the remaining planes. Melchizedek is also in tune with the fourth plane or the mental plane. This is the plane where man and mind meet. The revelations are given to man from the fourth plane. What makes Melchizedek able to communicate with the higher forces is the angelic forces in him that are double that of a normal man, which is 360 degrees of will, 180 degrees agreeable and 180 degrees disagreeable. 720 degrees, Melchizedek, 360 degrees, man, and 180 degrees, angelic beings. Melchizedek was called the angel of justice and the son of righteousness, Malachi 4:2. The Mohammedans refer to him as Al-Haadi the Green One, the order of Melchizedek. This order was also called the order of the Essenes. Psalms 110:4, the Lord hath sworn and will not repent, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek.